The large chamber on Vega 7 buzzed with tension as Ambassador Daniel Carter stood tall at the center of the Galactic Council. His face was calm, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of frustration. Around him, representatives from dozens of alien species leaned forward in their seats, some whispering among themselves, while others watched Daniel with cold, calculating stares. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if the entire galaxy hung on the edge of a decision that could change everything. Daniel took a deep breath before speaking. "We have listened to your accusations," he began, his voice steady and clear. "You claim we hoard resources. You accuse us of refusing to share our technology. But what you fail to understand is this: humanity has always valued its freedom above all else." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We will not be dictated to by any council, no matter how powerful." Lauren Hayes, Daniel's aide, stood a few steps behind him. Her hands were clasped tightly together, her knuckles white from the effort of staying composed. She had worked tirelessly alongside Daniel for months, trying to bridge the gap between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. But now, as she watched him deliver this speech, she couldn't help but feel a pang of unease. Was walking away truly the right choice, or were they making a terrible mistake? The room erupted into murmurs after Daniel finished speaking. Some aliens nodded approvingly, respecting the boldness of his statement. Others scowled, clearly offended by what they saw as arrogance. Vrax, a reptilian diplomat from the Zarnak Empire, rose from his seat. His scales shimmered faintly under the artificial light as he fixed Daniel with an icy glare. "Your actions are reckless," he hissed. "If you leave these talks, you risk war, not just with one species, but with many." Arena, an elder from the Caliph Collective, interjected softly. Her insectoid form clicked gently as she moved, her voice calm yet firm. "War benefits no one," she said. "Let us not rush to judgment. Perhaps there is still time to find common ground." But Daniel shook his head. "Common ground cannot exist when trust is broken," he replied. With that, he turned and walked toward the exit, Lauren following close behind. As they stepped out of the chamber, the doors slid shut behind them with a quiet hiss, cutting off the rising tide of voices inside. Outside, the corridors of Vega 7 stretched endlessly, bathed in soft blue light. Lauren finally broke the silence. "Do you think we made the right call?" she asked, her tone tinged with doubt. Daniel stopped and looked at her. For a moment, the weight of the universe seemed to rest on his shoulders. "I don't know," he admitted, "but sometimes doing the hard thing is the only way forward." As they continued down the corridor, neither of them noticed the small group of aliens watching from a distance. Among them was Kyra, a young ambassador in training from the Caliph Collective. She frowned thoughtfully, wondering if the humans had just sealed their own fate, or if the Council had pushed them too far. Back on Earth, President Rachel Monroe stood in front of the United Nations Assembly Hall. The room was packed with delegates from every corner of the planet, their faces a mix of curiosity, concern, and anger. A large screen behind her displayed the emblem of the Galactic Council, now a symbol of division rather than unity. Rachel adjusted the microphone before speaking, her voice firm but measured. "Today marks a new chapter for humanity," she began. "We have chosen to step away from the Galactic Council because we believe our independence is worth protecting. No alien power will dictate how we live or what we do with our resources." Her words echoed through the chamber, met with scattered applause and murmurs of disagreement. Outside the building, crowds had gathered. Some held signs praising the decision, chanting slogans like "Earth First." Others carried banners criticizing the move, calling it reckless and dangerous. Reporters pushed microphones toward anyone willing to speak, capturing a chaotic mix of opinions. Among the crowd stood Emily Dawson, a captain in Earth's newly formed interstellar fleet. She watched the scene silently, her arms crossed over her chest. Emily knew better than most that isolation came with risks. Risks she wasn't sure Earth was ready to face. In another part of the world, General Adam Price sat in a dimly lit war room, Maps of star systems floated holographically above the table, glowing faintly in shades of blue and red. His team of strategists leaned over the displays, pointing out potential threats. "If the Zarnuk Empire decides to act," one officer said, "we'll be outnumbered and outgunned." Adam nodded grimly. "Then we prepare," he replied. "Strengthen our defenses, train harder, and make sure every soldier knows what's at stake." He tapped a finger on the map, highlighting key positions near Earth's borders. "We can't afford to let our guard down, not even for a second." Meanwhile, in a quiet office miles away, Daniel Carter stared at a stack of reports on his desk. Lauren Hayes sat across from him, flipping through files filled with data about resource shortages and trade disruptions. "The sanctions are already hitting us hard," she said. "Food prices are rising. Fuel supplies are dwindling. People are starting to panic." Daniel sighed, rubbing his temples. "I know," he said, "but this was always going to be difficult. We're cutting ties with powers that controlled much of our economy. It'll take time to adjust." He looked up at Lauren, his expression heavy with responsibility. "What worries me more is what comes next. If the Council pushes further, if they decide to punish us for leaving, we might find ourselves in a fight we didn't ask for." Lauren frowned. "Do you think they'll really go that far?" "I don't know," Daniel admitted, "but we need to be ready for anything." As the days passed, tensions grew. Protests erupted in major cities, some turning violent as frustration boiled over. In rural areas, farmers struggled to grow crops without access to imported fertilizers. Factories slowed production due to shortages of raw materials. Yet amidst the chaos, there were also sparks of hope. Engineers worked around the clock to develop alternatives to restricted technologies. Community groups banded together to share resources and support those hardest hit. Despite the challenges, Daniel remained determined. He believed humanity could survive, and even thrive, on its own. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that walking away from the Council had been only the beginning of something far bigger, something neither he nor anyone else fully understood yet. The chamber on Vega 7 buzzed with energy as the Galactic Council reconvened without human representatives. The absence of Daniel Carter and his team left an empty space at the center of the room, a stark reminder of Earth's abrupt departure. Vrax, the reptilian diplomat from the Zarnuk Empire, wasted no time filling the silence. His sharp teeth glinted as he leaned forward, his voice low and venomous. "Humans are unpredictable," he said, addressing the Council. "They act without regard for the consequences of their choices. Leaving this Council was not a gesture of independence. It was a declaration of hostility." Several Council members nodded in agreement, their expressions grim. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure if they fully trusted Vrax's assessment. Arena, the wise elder from the Caliph Collective, raised a delicate limb to signal her desire to speak. Her insectoid form clicked softly as she moved, drawing attention to her calm demeanor. "We must be careful," she said, her voice steady and measured. "Humans have shown themselves capable of both great cooperation and great conflict. To label them as enemies without evidence would be reckless." Vrax turned to her, his eyes narrowing. "Reckless? You call caution reckless when they refuse to follow the rules we all agreed upon. Their withdrawal weakens us. Arena, it sets a dangerous precedent." Arena tilted her head slightly, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the chamber's soft light. "Perhaps," she replied. "But let us not forget that humans were once allies. They helped mediate disputes between our factions when war seemed inevitable. Have we considered that their decision to leave may stem from fear or mistrust, rather than aggression?" Her words caused a ripple of unease among the Council members. Some exchanged glances, while others whispered quietly to their aides. Kyra, the young ambassador in training seated near the back of the chamber, listened intently. She had always admired Arena's wisdom, but now she found herself questioning whether even the elder could sway the Council's growing hostility toward Earth. After a long pause, Councillor Trelk, a hulking representative from the Aquatic Nymari Federation, spoke up. His deep voice resonated through the chamber like rolling waves. "Fear or not, their actions disrupt the balance we've worked so hard to maintain. If we allow one species to defy the Council without consequence, others may follow." The debate continued for hours, each faction arguing its position with increasing fervor. Finally, the Council called for a vote. The motion on the table was simple: impose strict sanctions on Earth to pressure them into rejoining the Council. After tense deliberation, the vote passed, but only narrowly. Many Council members abstained, unwilling to commit to such harsh measures without clearer evidence of Earth's intentions. As the session ended, Arena lingered in the chamber, watching the other delegates file out. Her thoughts were heavy with concern. She knew the galaxy stood on the brink of something significant, though whether it would lead to peace or war remained uncertain. Nearby, Kyra approached cautiously, her youthful curiosity outweighing her nervousness. "Counselor Arena," she began hesitantly, "do you think the humans will try to fight back?" Arena turned to face her, clicking softly in thought. "I do not know," she admitted, "but I fear that if we continue down this path, conflict may become unavoidable. Humans are resilient. They adapt quickly and fiercely defend what they believe is theirs. We must tread carefully, Kyra, or we risk provoking the storm none of us can control." Kyra nodded slowly, absorbing the elder's words. As she walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was changing, and not necessarily for the better. Back on Earth, humanity prepared for an uncertain future, unaware of the divisions and doubts spreading among the stars. Late at night, Lauren Hayes sat alone in her office, surrounded by stacks of files and glowing screens. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of her computer. She had been reviewing classified documents sent from Earth's Intelligence Division when something caught her eye: a series of encrypted reports marked Eyes Only. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she began decrypting them. As the files opened, Lauren's heart sank. The reports detailed intercepted communications between several alien factions, including the Zarnok Empire and a few smaller species. The messages hinted at a secret alliance forming against Earth. Worse still, there were plans, vague but alarming, for a coordinated attack on human colonies near the outer rim of their territory. Lauren felt a chill run down her spine. If these reports were true, humanity wasn't just facing isolation, it was staring down the barrel of an invasion. She immediately called Daniel Carter, who arrived within minutes. His face was tired, his suit slightly rumpled from long hours of meetings. When Lauren showed him the files, his expression hardened. For a moment, he said nothing, simply staring at the screen as if hoping the words would change. "Why didn't you tell me about this sooner?" Lauren asked, her voice trembling with frustration. "If we knew aliens were planning something like this, why didn't we warn the Council?" Daniel sighed deeply, running a hand through his graying hair. "Because we couldn't risk it," he admitted. "If the Council found out we were spying on them, or that we suspected some of their members were plotting against us, it would have made things even worse. We needed to act carefully, Lauren. Walking away was our only move." Lauren shook her head, pacing the small office. "But now what? Do we keep this quiet too? People deserve to know the truth." "And cause panic." Daniel shot back, his tone sharp but controlled. "We're already struggling to hold things together here. Imagine what would happen if word got out that aliens might be planning to attack us. It could destroy what little stability we have left." Lauren stopped pacing and looked at him, her eyes filled with doubt. "So we just sit back and hope they don't strike?" "That doesn't feel right, Daniel. Secrets like this, they always come out eventually. And when they do, people will ask why we didn't say anything." Daniel leaned against the desk, his shoulders slumping under the weight of responsibility. "I know it's not perfect," he said quietly, "but sometimes doing the wrong thing is the only way to buy time. Right now, we need to focus on strengthening Earth's defenses and finding allies wherever we can. Exposing this information prematurely won't help anyone." For a long while, Neither of them spoke. Lauren returned to her chair, staring at the glowing screen. She wanted to trust Daniel's judgment. He had always been a mentor to her, but the enormity of the decision weighed heavily on her mind. What if keeping this secret cost lives? What if the galaxy turned against Earth because they hadn't acted sooner? Outside the office window, the city lights twinkled faintly in the distance. Somewhere beyond those lights, billions of people went about their lives, unaware of the storm brewing among the stars. Lauren glanced at Daniel one last time before turning off the screen. "I hope you're right about this," she whispered. "Because if you're not, none of us will be ready for what comes next." Daniel didn't respond. He simply stared out the window, his jaw clenched tightly. Both of them knew the stakes were higher than ever, and that the choices they made now would shape the future of humanity. Far from Earth, aboard a Zarnok warship orbiting a desolate moon, Lieutenant Roker stood stiffly at attention. The young soldier's scales shimmered faintly under the ship's harsh lighting, but his usual pride was absent. Instead, uncertainty clouded his sharp features. Across from him, Commander Vrax paced back and forth, his tail flicking with irritation. "You understand your orders," Vrax growled, stopping abruptly to fix Roker with a piercing glare. Roker nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. We are to patrol the border near human space and prepare for further instructions." Vrax snorted, baring his teeth. "Good. Do not question what comes next. Humanity has made its choice, and now they will face the consequences." He turned away dismissively, signaling the end of their conversation. As Roker left the command center, his mind raced. He had joined the military to protect his people, not to start wars. Yet here he was, preparing for conflict against a species he barely understood. What did humans truly want? Were they as dangerous as Vrax claimed? The questions gnawed at him, but he knew better than to voice them aloud. Meanwhile, in a distant corner of the galaxy, Kyra sat cross-legged on the floor of her quarters aboard a Caliph diplomatic vessel. Scrolls of ancient text floated holographically around her, glowing softly in shades of green and gold. She had always believed in diplomacy, in finding ways to bridge divides between species. But after witnessing the tension at the Galactic Council, she wasn't sure peace was possible anymore. Her mentor, Elder Irina, entered the room quietly. "You seem troubled," Irina said, clicking softly as she settled beside Kyra. Kyra looked up, her large eyes reflecting both frustration and fear. "I don't understand why everyone is so quick to assume the worst about humans. They walked away, yes, but does that mean we should punish them?" Irina tilted her head thoughtfully. "Fear often drives actions that logic cannot justify," she replied. "The Council sees humanity's independence as a threat because it challenges their authority. And some factions, like the Zarnok Empire, see opportunity in chaos." "But isn't there another way?" Kyra asked. "Can't we try to talk to them again, to understand why they left?" Irina sighed, her limbs clicking faintly as she shifted. "Perhaps, but convincing others to listen will not be easy. Many have already decided that humanity must be controlled or eliminated." Kyra frowned, staring at the glowing text surrounding her. "Then maybe someone needs to remind them that war benefits no one, even if it means standing alone." Back on Earth, Captain Emily Dawson prepared her crew for an upcoming mission. The Aurora Asterisk, their sleek starship, gleamed under the hangar lights as technicians performed final checks. Emily moved among her team, offering quiet words of encouragement. Among them was Lieutenant Ryan Cole, a tall man with sharp features and an air of confidence that bordered on arrogance. "Remember," Emily told her crew, "this mission is about building trust. We're reaching out to neutral colonies, not starting fights. Stay focused, stay calm, and let me handle any trouble." Ryan smirked slightly but said nothing. Inside, however, his thoughts churned. He didn't agree with Emily's approach, or with Earth's withdrawal from the Council. In his view, humanity should assert dominance, not grovel for allies. As the Aurora Asterisk launched into space, Ryan kept his doubts hidden, biding his time. Unbeknownst to anyone, the seeds of betrayal were already taking root. Ryan had secretly contacted a Zarnak operative days earlier, leaking details about the Aurora Asterisks route. He justified his actions as necessary sacrifices for humanity's survival. But deep down, even he couldn't ignore the unease creeping into his chest. Across the galaxy, lines were being drawn. Some sought peace, others conflict, and many simply tried to survive. Amidst the growing tension, one thing was clear: the choices made by individuals, human and alien alike, would shape the fate of countless lives. The Aurora Asterisk glided silently through the vastness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the faint light of a distant star. Captain Emily Dawson stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she gazed out at the endless expanse. The mission was simple: establish trade agreements with neutral alien colonies to ease Earth's growing shortages. But Emily knew better than to underestimate the risks. Trust was a rare commodity in the galaxy these days. Lieutenant Ryan Cole leaned against a console nearby, his expression unreadable. He had been unusually quiet since the mission began, which struck Emily as odd. Ryan was usually eager to share his opinions, often too eager, but now he seemed distracted, almost guarded. She pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the task ahead. Approaching the Krillian colony, announced Ensign Lisa Park, her voice steady as she monitored the ship's sensors. They've acknowledged our arrival and granted permission to dock. Emily nodded. Good work. Prep the shuttle team. We'll head down as soon as we're secure. She turned to Ryan. You're with me. Let's show them we mean business. The Krillian colony was a small but thriving outpost nestled on the edge of a rocky moon. Its inhabitants, a mix of traders, miners, and wanderers, were known for their neutrality in galactic politics. As Emily and her team disembarked from the shuttle, they were greeted by a tall, wiry alien named Zelk. His skin shimmered like liquid metal, and his eyes glowed faintly as he extended a hand in greeting. Welcome to Krillian, Zelk said, his voice smooth and measured. We don't often get visitors from Earth these days. Emily shook his hand firmly. Thank you for seeing us. We're here to discuss trade opportunities. Both our peoples could benefit from working together. Zelk nodded slowly, though his glowing eyes betrayed a hint of skepticism. Trade is possible, but it won't be easy. Many colonies are wary of drawing attention from the Council, or worse, the Zarnak Empire. We understand the risks, Emily replied. But isolation isn't sustainable for anyone. Surely there's a way to make this work. As negotiations began, Ryan grew increasingly restless. He excused himself, claiming he needed to check on the shuttle, but instead he slipped away to a secluded corner of the colony. Pulling out a small communication device, he transmitted coordinates to his Zarnak contact. His fingers hovered over the send button for a moment before pressing it firmly. The betrayal weighed heavily on him, but he told himself it was for the greater good. Back on the Aurora Asterisk, alarms blared suddenly. Captain, Lisa called urgently. Multiple ships have dropped out of hyperspace near our position. They're Zarnak warships. Emily's blood ran cold. Get everyone back aboard immediately, she ordered, sprinting toward the shuttle bay. By the time she reached the colony's docking platform, the air was thick with tension. Zelk approached her, his metallic skin rippling with unease. You need to leave, he said urgently. The Zarnak don't care about neutrality. If they find you here, they'll destroy us all. Emily clenched her jaw. We're not leaving without my crew. Moments later, Ryan appeared, breathless but unharmed. Emily didn't have time to question his delay. They boarded the shuttle just as the first blasts from the Zarnak ships rocked the colony. The Aurora Asterisk's engines roared to life as Emily took command, weaving the ship through a hail of enemy fire. Shields at 60%. Lisa shouted from her station. Hold steady, Emily ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos. We're not losing this ship or our mission. Through quick thinking and sheer determination, the Aurora broke free of the ambush, disappearing into the safety of hyperspace. As the crew caught their breath, Emily stared at the swirling colors outside the viewport. They had survived. For now. But the attack confirmed what she had feared most. Humanity was no longer safe anywhere in the galaxy. Unseen by the others, Ryan stood quietly in the corner, guilt gnawing at him. He had set the trap, but watching his crew fight for their lives made him question whether he had gone too far. The Aurora limped through space, its damaged hull groaning faintly as the ship drifted into a remote sector of the galaxy. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage caused by the Zarnak attack, but the mood aboard was grim. Captain Emily Dawson sat in the command chair, her face pale with exhaustion. She replayed the ambush in her mind over and over, trying to understand how the Zarnak had known their location. Nearby, Lieutenant Ryan Cole avoided eye contact with anyone, his guilt eating away at him like a slow poison. He told himself the betrayal was necessary, that humanity needed to be forced into action, but the memory of his crewmates scrambling for their lives haunted him. Every time someone passed by, he felt as though they could see the truth written on his face. Emily finally broke the silence. "We need answers," she said firmly, standing up and addressing her team. "How did the Zarnak know where we were? This wasn't random." Lisa Park, the young ensign manning the sensors, hesitated before speaking. "Captain, I've been analyzing the data from before the attack. There's something odd about our communication logs. It looks like someone sent a signal, an unauthorized transmission, right before the warships arrived." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Ryan, who froze, his hands gripping the edge of a console. "You think one of us is a traitor?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Emily stepped closer to him, her sharp gaze piercing. "It's starting to look that way. Unless you have an explanation, Lieutenant." Ryan swallowed hard, his mind racing for a way out. "I don't know anything about a signal," he lied. "Maybe it was a malfunction, or maybe the Zarnak intercepted our normal communications." "It wasn't a malfunction," Lisa interjected quietly. "The signal was encrypted and directed straight at a Zarnak frequency." The weight of the accusation hung heavy in the air. Ryan opened his mouth to defend himself but found no words. Instead, he looked down, his fists clenched tightly. For a moment, Emily thought he might confess, but then he straightened up, his expression hardening. "If you're accusing me, you'd better have proof," he snapped. "Because without it, this is just a waste of time." Before Emily could respond, an alert flashed on the main screen. A group of ships was approaching. Row Calith traders, their vessels battered but clearly armed. They hailed the Aurora and a raspy voice crackled over the comms. "Human ship, we saw your fight. You're lucky to be alive. Need help?" Emily exchanged glances with her crew. Trusting strangers was risky, but they had little choice. "We'll take whatever assistance you can offer," she replied. The Calith traders guided the Aurora to a hidden asteroid field, where they helped repair the ship and provided supplies. One of the traders, a grizzled alien named Fren, pulled Emily aside. "You should know, the Zarnak aren't acting alone. Some factions in the Council are backing them. Humanity isn't just fighting enemies. It's being hunted." Emily nodded grimly. "Thanks for the warning. But why are you helping us?" Vren shrugged. "Not all of us agree with the Council's decisions. Besides, humans have guts. If anyone can turn this mess around, it's you." As repairs continued, Ryan retreated to a quiet corner of the ship. He stared out at the stars, his mind a storm of doubt and regret. He had convinced himself that betraying the mission would force Earth to take stronger action against its enemies. But now, seeing the consequences of his actions, he wondered if he had only made things worse. Meanwhile, Emily gathered her senior officers to discuss their next move. "This changes everything," she said. "We can't trust anyone, not even each other. From now on, every decision we make has to be careful. Our survival depends on it." No one argued. The crew knew they were living on borrowed time, and the galaxy was growing more dangerous by the day. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter stared at the latest report from Captain Emily Dawson. The details of the Zarnok ambush and the rogue Caliph traders' intervention painted a grim picture. Humanity was surrounded by enemies, and trust, even among its own people, was crumbling. Lauren Hayes stood beside him, her arms crossed tightly as she read over his shoulder. "This is bad," Lauren said, her voice low. "If the Council is helping the Zarnok, we're not just isolated, we're marked." Daniel nodded, his jaw clenched. "It's worse than that. If word gets out about what happened to the Aurora Asterisk, it'll confirm every fear people have about leaving the Council. Panic will spread faster than we can control it." Lauren hesitated before speaking again. "What do we do? Pull the mission back? Or keep pushing?" Daniel sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. "We can't pull back now. If we do, we'll look weak. And desperation is the last thing we need right now. But we also can't ignore the risks. We need a new approach." That night, Daniel paced his office, thinking hard. He knew humanity couldn't face this crisis alone. The Council had turned against them, but perhaps there were others in the galaxy who still believed in cooperation. An idea began to form in his mind, one that was risky but might just work. The next morning, Daniel called an emergency meeting with President Rachel Monroe and General Adam Price. The three gathered in a secure war room, holographic maps of the galaxy hovering above the table. Daniel wasted no time getting to the point. "We need to bypass the Council entirely," he said. "Instead of trying to negotiate through them, we go directly to the people, the alien populations outside their control. Show them we're not the enemy they've been told we are." Rachel frowned, leaning forward. "And how do you propose we do that? Broadcast messages? Send envoys? We don't even know who would listen." "Exactly," Daniel replied. "But we start small. Reach out to neutral colonies, sympathetic factions, anyone willing to hear us. Then we invite them to a summit, a chance to talk face to face without the Council's influence." Adam crossed his arms, skepticism written across his face. "You're talking about exposing our position to the entire galaxy. What if this backfires? What if it brings more attacks?" "It's a risk," Daniel admitted. "But staying silent hasn't worked either. If we wait for the Council to make the first move, we'll lose everything. This way, at least we take control of the narrative." After a long silence, Rachel nodded slowly. "All right, let's try it. But we'll need to prepare for anything. Attacks, betrayals, everything." As plans were set in motion, the message went out. Earth was calling for open dialogue, inviting representatives from across the galaxy to meet on a neutral moon orbiting Epsilon Eridani. The response was mixed. Some species ignored the call, while others expressed cautious interest. Among those watching closely was Arena, the wise elder from the Caliph Collective. In her chambers on Vega 7, Arena reviewed recordings of Earth's broadcast. Kyra sat nearby, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Do you think anyone will come?" Kyra asked. Arena clicked softly, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the glow of the screen. "Some will. Fear keeps many silent, but there are always those who believe in peace. This could be humanity's chance to prove they're not the threat the Council claims." Kyra nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe it's time someone reminded the galaxy that trust isn't built on fear." Meanwhile, tensions within the Council grew. Vrax slammed his fist on the table during an emergency session. "This is unacceptable. They're undermining our authority." Other members exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, cracks appeared in the Council's united front. Some began to wonder if isolating Earth had been the right move after all. As the galaxy braced for the upcoming summit, hope flickered faintly amidst the chaos. Whether it would burn bright or be snuffed out remained to be seen. The neutral moon orbiting Epsilon Eridani was a barren, desolate place, its surface covered in gray dust and jagged rocks. But on this day, it buzzed with activity. Ships of all shapes and sizes descended from the sky, their engines casting long shadows across the makeshift landing pads. Representatives from dozens of alien species stepped onto the ground, some curious, others wary, but all united by one thing: the chance to hear what humanity had to say. Daniel Carter stood at the center of the gathering, his posture stiff but determined. Beside him, Lauren Hayes clutched a datapad, her eyes scanning the crowd. The air was thick with tension, the hum of translators filling the silence as delegates exchanged cautious glances. This was uncharted territory, a meeting without the Galactic Council's oversight, and no one knew quite what to expect. "Thank you for coming," Daniel began, his voice calm but firm. He spoke slowly, letting the translators do their work. "We didn't call you here to make demands or ask for favors. We came to listen, to understand why so many see us as a threat. And if we've done something wrong, we want to fix it." His words hung in the air, met with a mix of reactions. Some aliens nodded approvingly, while others remained stone-faced, their arms crossed over their chests. A reptilian delegate from a minor faction leaned forward, his scales shimmering faintly. "You left the council. You turned your back on the galaxy. Why should we trust you now?" Daniel met his gaze without flinching. "Because we're willing to try again. Isolation hasn't worked for anyone, not for us, and not for you. If we keep building walls, we'll only destroy ourselves. But if we talk, if we share our fears and hopes, maybe we can find a way forward." Lauren stepped forward, holding up the datapad. "We've brought evidence of secret alliances against Earth. Not just rumors, but intercepted communications. We aren't asking for pity. We're asking for honesty. Are we enemies, or are we being made into one?" The crowd murmured, the weight of her words sinking in. Arina, seated near the front, clicked softly in approval. She rose to her feet, drawing everyone's attention. "The Caliph Collective has always valued truth," she said, "and I believe these humans speak sincerely. Perhaps it is time for us to question who truly benefits from division." Her statement sparked debate among the delegates. Some argued that trusting Earth was too risky, while others admitted they had grown tired of the Council's manipulations. Kyra watched silently, marveling at how quickly opinions shifted when given the chance to speak freely. As the discussions continued, Daniel noticed subtle changes in the room. Aliens who had arrived hostile began to soften, their body language less rigid. Others formed small groups, exchanging ideas and concerns. For the first time in months, the galaxy felt less like a battleground and more like a community. But not everyone was convinced. Vrax, who had arrived late and lingered at the edges of the gathering, seethed with anger. He approached Daniel after the session ended, his sharp teeth bared. "This changes nothing," he hissed. "You may win over some fools, but the Council will never forgive this defiance." Daniel held his ground, meeting Vrax's glare with steady resolve. "Then let the Council decide what kind of future they want. But know this, we're done living in fear. Humanity chooses peace, even if it means standing alone." Vrax sneered but said nothing more, retreating into the shadows. As he left, Arina approached Daniel, her insectoid form clicking gently. "You've taken a bold step today," she said. "Not all will follow, but some already have. That is a beginning." Daniel managed a small smile. A beginning is all we need. The summit wasn't perfect. Old wounds still festered, and trust wouldn't come easily. But as the delegates prepared to leave, there was a sense that something important had been set in motion. The galaxy was watching and waiting to see what would happen next. The summit on the moon of Epsilon Eridani ended with cautious optimism. Delegates from various alien species began to leave, their ships lifting off one by one, leaving trails of light against the dark sky. Some carried hope back to their homeworlds, while others remained uncertain. But for the first time in months, Humanity didn't feel entirely alone in the galaxy. Daniel Carter stood near the edge of the landing zone, watching as the last ship disappeared into the distance. Lauren Hayes joined him, her arms crossed tightly against the cold wind that swept across the barren landscape. "Do you think it worked?" she asked softly, her voice barely audible over the howling gusts. Daniel sighed, his breath visible in the thin air. "It's hard to say. We've planted a seed, but whether it grows into something meaningful, that's up to everyone else now." Lauren nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Still, it's more than we had before. At least we're talking again, really talking." Back on Earth, President Rachel Monroe addressed the United Nations once more. This time, the atmosphere in the assembly hall was different. Instead of anger or fear, there was a sense of quiet determination. Rachel spoke clearly and calmly, outlining the outcomes of the summit. "We reached out to the galaxy, and some responded," she said. "It's not a perfect solution, but it's a start. We'll keep building bridges, no matter how long it takes." General Adam Price listened from the back of the room, his arms folded. He wasn't fully convinced that peace was possible, but he couldn't deny the shift in momentum. For the first time since Earth left the Galactic Council, there was a glimmer of hope, and hope, he realized, was a powerful weapon. Meanwhile, aboard a rogue Calith trader vessel, Kyra sat quietly in the corner of the mess hall, reviewing recordings of the summit. Her mentor, Arina, joined her, clicking gently as she settled into the seat beside her. "What do you think?" Arina asked, tilting her head slightly. Kyra hesitated before answering. "I think maybe the galaxy isn't as broken as I thought. People want to trust each other. They're just afraid. If we can help them overcome that fear." Arina clicked approvingly. "Then perhaps there's still a chance for unity. But remember, change takes time. Be patient." Far away, in a distant sector of space, Captain Emily Dawson guided the Aurora toward Earth. The repairs were complete, and the crew moved about the ship with renewed purpose. Though the scars of the Zarnok ambush were still fresh, they carried a newfound resolve. Humanity wasn't just surviving, it was fighting to thrive. As the Aurora entered Earth's orbit, Emily stared out at the blue-green planet below. It looked fragile from this distance, yet unbearably precious. She turned to her crew, who had gathered on the bridge. "This isn't the end," she said firmly. "It's only the beginning. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The crew nodded, their faces reflecting a mix of pride and determination. Even Ryan Cole, who had betrayed them, stood quietly among them, his guilt tempered by a desire to make amends. He hadn't confessed to his role in the ambush, but he vowed silently to prove himself worthy of their trust again. In the days that followed, reports trickled in from across the galaxy. Neutral colonies began reopening trade routes with Earth. Rogue factions, inspired by the summit, pledged support. Though challenges remained, sanctions, lingering distrust, and the ever-present threat of the Zarnok Empire, the tide seemed to be turning. On Vega 7, cracks continued to form within the Galactic Council. Vrax raged against the growing dissent, but even his allies began questioning the Council's authority. Arina watched it all unfold with quiet satisfaction. The galaxy, she knew, was changing, and not even the Council could stop it. As night fell over Earth, Daniel Carter stood on a balcony overlooking the city lights. Lauren joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. Handing one to Daniel, she smiled faintly. "One step at a time," she said. He raised his cup in agreement. One step at a time. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with uncertainty and risk. But for the first time in a long while, humanity, and the galaxy, had a reason to believe that cooperation might still be possible. And sometimes, that was enough.